Early one morning, Dad called, "Come along, tiddlers, we're ready to start." Topsy and Tim ran to the car, carrying their buckets and spades. They were going for a holiday at the seaside. First, they drove to the Lion garage to get the car ready for the journey. The garage man put in the petrol, while Dad blew up the tires. "The windscreen could do with a wash," said Mummy. Topsy and Tim fetched the water in their seaside buckets. "All aboard!" shouted Dad. Tim waved to the garage man as they drove away. "Goodbye, everybody," called Topsy. "We're going to the seaside." They buzzed along until the town was far behind. Then they had to slow right down behind a lorry. Mummy quickly closed the window to keep the fumes out. "Never mind," said Dad. "We'll soon be smelling sea breezes." Suddenly, Tim shouted, "We've left our buckets behind!" "Too late to turn back now," said Dad. "We'll buy new buckets," said Mummy. Tim began to cry. "I want my old bucket," he sobbed. "So do I," said Topsy, and she began to cry. "We're all getting hungry," said Mummy. "Let's stop and have a picnic." "Well, this road is too busy and dusty for picnics," said Dad. He turned into a narrow country lane. The hedges brushed the side of the car. At last they came to a wider place. Dad drove the car onto the grass beside the lane. "Here's a good place for a picnic," he said. It was soon time to go. "We must pick up all our litter," said Mummy. "What shall we put it in?" asked Tim. Mummy gave them an empty carrier bag. "We could have put it in our good old seaside buckets," said Topsy. Dad began to turn the car round. Suddenly, the back of the car dropped down with a bump. "We've gone into the ditch," said Dad. The car roared, but it could not climb out of the ditch. Dad looked worried. "We need help," he said. "And here we are, miles from anywhere." "I can hear a car," said Topsy. The sound came nearer. They looked up and down the lane, but could not see a car. Then a man looked over the hedge, high above them. "It's a friendly giant," shouted Topsy. The man wasn't a giant. He was sitting up on his tractor in the field behind the hedge, but he was friendly. He fixed a rope from his tractor to their car. Then the tractor tugged the car out of the ditch. They drove on, and soon they came to the top of a hill. Dad said, "Look ahead and see what you can see." "I can see the sea," shouted Topsy. "I wish we had our old buckets," said Tim. Soon they drew up in their holiday village. Dad began to unload their luggage. "Hello," he said. "What have I found?" "Our buckets!" shouted Topsy and Tim. They ran straight off to fill them with seaside sand. Topsy and Tim were going to visit their granny. They were going by train because Granny lived a long way away. "Hurry up, Topsy and Tim," said Mummy. "We mustn't miss our train." They were taking a lot of luggage with them. So Mummy called a taxi to drive them to the station. "I wish we could go faster," said Tim. "We'll miss the train." "No, we won't," said Mummy. They reached the station with plenty of time to spare. The kind taxi driver found a special trolley for the luggage. Topsy and Tim helped push it through the booking hall. People were queuing to buy tickets at the ticket office. "I'm glad I came to buy our tickets yesterday," said Mummy. "Now we don't have to join the queue. Our train leaves from platform 2, said Mummy. She showed their tickets to the platform guard. "Platform 2 is over the bridge," he told them. "Phew," said Tim, as they pushed their trolley up the slope to the bridge. "Whee!" said Topsy as they trundled it down the other side. There was a little shop on the platform. Topsy and Tim chose some comics for the journey. A lot of people were waiting for the train. At last, a loudspeaker told them it would soon arrive. "Here's our train," shouted Topsy. "I saw it first," said Tim. It was quite a scramble to get onto the train. "Stay close to me and mind the gap," said Mummy. There was quite a squash inside the train too. But Mummy found some empty seats. "Sit by that window, Tim," she said. "You sit this side, Topsy." "That isn't Topsy," said Tim. They'd got the wrong little girl. But her mummy was not far behind. "I think I've got your little girl," she said to Mummy. The little girl's name was Claire. She saw some cars waiting at a level crossing for the train to pass. Topsy and Tim waved to the drivers. Soon the train was rushing through the countryside. "I can see a pony," said Topsy. "I can see some cows," said Tim. "Tickets, please," said a friendly voice. It was the ticket inspector. He had come to clip their tickets. "Are you off on your holidays?" he asked. "We're going to stay with our granny," said Topsy and Tim. "Can I come too?" asked the ticket inspector, but he was only joking. He made a neat hole with his clippers in each of their tickets. The door at the end of the carriage opened, and a lady pushed a rattly trolley towards them. It was filled with things to eat and drink. "Would you both like a sandwich?" asked Mummy. "I want a ham sandwich," said Tim. "A cheese sandwich, please," said Topsy. They both had some orange juice, and Mummy had a cup of coffee. Suddenly, the train rushed into a long, dark tunnel. It made the carriage look gloomy and strange. "Ooh," said Topsy. "My ears feel funny," said Tim. "Drink some orange juice," said Mummy. "Then they'll feel better." At last, the train stopped at Granny's station. "There's Granny!" shouted Topsy and Tim. Granny was pleased to see them. "Did you enjoy your train ride?" she asked. "Yes, we did," said Topsy and Tim, and they told Granny all about it on the way to her home. Topsy and Tim and Mummy were on their way to Rosemary Farm. They were going to see Mummy's friend, Mrs. Stewart, the farmer's wife. "May we help on the farm?" asked Topsy. Mrs. Stewart gave them 2 egg boxes. "Go along to the hen house," she said, "and choose 12 nice eggs from the hen's nest to take home." Some hens came to greet Topsy and Tim, and a duck quacked cheerfully. Topsy found some ducklings learning to swim. A loud hissing noise startled Topsy and Tim. 3 big, angry-looking geese were moving towards them. "We'd better run into the hen house," said Tim. The hen house felt safe, but it was very gloomy. Soon their eyes grew used to the dark, and they could see plenty of eggs in the hen's nests. Topsy chose 6 big eggs to fill her box. The angry geese were on the path back to the farmhouse, so Topsy and Tim could not go that way. They climbed the wall instead, being very careful with their eggs. "Let's go back to the farmhouse this way," said Tim. Topsy and Tim were in the cow's meadow. They did not know which way to turn. Then they saw Farmer Stewart. "I'm going to take these cows to the milking sheds," said Farmer Stewart. "Will you give me a hand?" Topsy and Tim helped Farmer Stewart take the cows to the milking sheds, although the cows knew the way themselves. "Can we help milk the cows?" asked Topsy and Tim. "We will soon do that with our machines, thank you," said Farmer Stewart. "I've got a special job for you, though, if you'd care to help." Farmer Stewart took a bucket of new milk. He led Topsy and Tim to a smaller shed. There was a baby calf in the shed. "Poor thing, it wants this milk," said Farmer Stewart. "But it can't drink. It only knows how to suck. Now put your eggs down somewhere, and then you can teach the calf how to drink from the bucket." Farmer Stewart showed Topsy what to do. She dipped her finger in the milk. Then she let the calf suck her milky finger. The calf sucked so hard that Topsy felt nervous. "Don't worry, it won't bite," said Farmer Stewart. Next, Topsy put her hand into the bucket. The calf went on sucking Topsy's finger until her hand and its nose were both in the warm milk. The calf soon discovered how to drink from the bucket without any help. Topsy and Tim ran back to the farmhouse to tell Mummy all about it. It was time for Topsy and Tim to go home. As they walked down the lane, they heard a tractor behind them. It was Farmer Stewart. "Here are the eggs you forgot," he said. "And here is a big carton of cream for your tea, because you were so good and helpful at the farm." When Topsy and Tim were on their way to school, they heard a fire engine coming. It raced past them, sirens sounding and blue lights flashing. All the other traffic got out of the way. Everyone knew that the firefighters were hurrying to put out a fire. Kerry's dad is a firefighter, said Topsy. I expect he is on that fire engine. But Kerry's dad was not on the fire engine. It was his morning off, and he was taking Kerry to school. Topsy and Tim told him about the fire engine they'd seen. There's an open day at my fire station on Saturday, said Kerry's dad. Would you like to come and see all our fire appliances? Yes, please, said Topsy and Tim. On Saturday, Topsy and Tim and Mummy set out for Belford Fire Station. There were lots of children at the fire station. Firefighters in yellow helmets were looking after them. Topsy and Tim soon found Kerry and her dad. Kerry was waiting to go on up on a long turntable ladder. Topsy and Tim wanted to go up too. A firefighter helped them all into a cage on the end of the ladder. He gave them safety helmets to wear. A firefighter at the back of the appliance pulled a lever and the ladder started to go up. It grew longer and longer and went higher and higher until the people on the ground looked as small as toys. We hose water down on the burning buildings from up here, said the firefighter. And you rescue people from high windows and roofs, said Kerry. When they came down from the ladder, Mummy bought them each a little firefighter's helmet. I'm going to be a firefighter when I grow up, said Kerry. Can girls be firefighters? Asked Topsy. I don't think so, said Tim. Yes, they can, said the lady who was selling the toy helmets. I'm a firefighter just like Kerry's dad. Women can be firefighters, but they have to be as strong and as brave as the men. To show how strong she was, she gave Tim a fireman's lift. Kerry's dad took them to see how the fire station worked. When there's a fire and someone phones 999, he said, we get the message on a teleprinter. A loudspeaker tells us where to go and which appliances to take. Alarm bells ring and the firefighters run to the appliances. If they're upstairs, they slide down a pole. It's quicker than running down the stairs. Kerry's dad lifted the children into the cab of a big fire appliance. They pretended to drive to a fire. Kerry's dad showed them the tall tower where the firefighters practiced with their ladders and hoses. When we've finished, we hang the hoses in the tower to dry them. Next to the tower room, there was a room that had been on fire. We make smoky fires in there, said Kerry's dad. Then we practice putting them out and rescuing people. Kerry took Topsy and Tim into a showroom full of fire dangers. It looked like an ordinary living room. See if you can spot where fires could start, said Kerry. Tim spotted a cigarette on an armchair seat. That could start a fire, he said. Topsy spotted a box of matches on the floor. A naughty little child might start a fire with those, she said. And that electric heater should be behind a fire guard, said Mummy. Are smoke detectors any use? She asked Kerry's dad. I think I ought to get one. Kerry's dad showed them a smoke detector and made it work. If there was a fire in your home one night, the smoke detector would wake you up, he said. We've got one, Kerry told Topsy. It was time to go home. But before they went, Kerry's dad gave them one last treat. It was a ride round the fire station yard on a children's fire appliance. The clever firefighters had made it specially for their open day. Topsy and Tim to visit the dentist. Mummy took them to see Mrs. Berry, the dentist at the health centre. They sat in the waiting room and read comics. The dentist's door opened and out came Josie Miller and her mummy. Josie smiled at Topsy and Tim. "I've got to wear a brace on my teeth," she said. "Why?" asked Topsy. "To make my teeth grow straight," said Josie. "Mrs. Berry is ready to see you now, Topsy and Tim," said the nurse. "Hello, twins," said Mrs. Berry. "Your surgery smells funny," said Topsy. "It's a nice clean smell," said Mummy. "Who wants to go first?" said Mrs. Berry. "Me," said Tim. He climbed into the dentist's chair. Mrs. Berry pressed a button and the chair tilted back. Tim felt like a rocket pilot. Mrs. Berry put a disposable mask over her nose and mouth. "What's that for?" asked Tim. "So that I don't breathe over you," said Mrs. Berry. "Open wide and let me see your teeth," said Mrs. Berry. Tim opened his mouth as wide as he could. "This small mirror will help me look for holes in Tim's teeth," said Mrs. Berry. "Little holes can turn into big holes, and big holes can turn into toothaches." There were no little holes in Tim's teeth. "Your turn now, Topsy," said Mrs. Berry. She found a little hole in one of Topsy's teeth. "I'll clean that hole and put a filling in it," said Mrs. Berry. "It'll stop pieces of food getting in and turning nasty." First, Mrs. Berry hung a sucking tube in Topsy's mouth. "That's to stop you dribbling," she said. The tube made funny sucking noises. Then she used a whizzy drill to clean out the hole in Topsy's tooth. The nurse gave Topsy a glass of pink water to rinse her mouth. The nurse mixed a tiny bit of silver filling. Tim watched her. "That's Topsy's filling," she said. Mrs. Berry pushed the silver filling into the hole in Topsy's tooth. She pressed it down and made it perfectly smooth. "There, good as new," said Mrs. Berry. "Did it hurt?" asked Tim. "The drill was noisy," said Topsy, "but it didn't hurt." "You've both got good teeth," said Mrs. Berry. "Keep it that way. Eat lots of different foods, but remember, sweet foods can hurt your teeth, so don't eat them too often. Never forget to clean your teeth in the morning and at bedtime, and don't eat or drink in bed." "Not even water?" said Tim. "Only water," said Mrs. Berry. "Sweet drinks can hurt your teeth as much as sweet food." Mrs. Berry gave Topsy and Tim a badge to remind them to look after their teeth. "Come back and see me soon," she said. Before they went home, the receptionist wrote down the date of their next visit. A little boy came into the waiting room, trying not to cry. "It's Tony Welch," said Topsy. "What's the matter, Tony?" asked Tim. "I've got toothache," sniffed Tony. "He eats too many sweets," said Tony's mum. "Never mind," said Topsy. "Mrs. Berry will make it better." Then they went to the chemist to buy new toothbrushes. "Mrs. Berry won't find any holes in our teeth next visit," said Topsy and Tim. Topsy and Tim were going to move house. There was a lot of work to do before the removal men came. "We must sort out the things we want to keep and the things we can throw away," said Mummy. "We'll sort out our toys," said Tim. They packed their toys and books into big cardboard boxes. "You haven't thrown much away," said Dad. Roly-Poly and Kitty kept getting in the way. "Will all our pets come with us?" asked Topsy. "Of course they will," said Mummy. At last it was the day of the move. The removal men came in an enormous van. They opened the back of the van and carried lots of big empty tea chests into the house. Topsy and Tim watched the men packing things into the tea chests and putting them into the van. Then they saw the furniture being carried out and put in the van too. It took a long time. Dad made mugs of tea for the men. Topsy and Tim had orange juice. When the house was quite empty, Topsy and Tim felt a bit sad. "Time to put the pets in the car and follow the van to our new home," said Mummy. Topsy carried Kitty in her travelling basket. Tim carried Tubby Mouse in his cage and held tight to Roly-Poly's lead. Dad carried the goldfish in their tank. Mummy took Wiggles the rabbit in a cardboard box. When the car began to move, Kitty got fidgety. Tim thought she needed a cuddle, so he opened her basket. As soon as he did, Kitty sprang out. Before anyone could stop her, she jumped over Mummy's shoulder, out of the car window and away. They could not find Kitty anywhere. "It's no good," said Dad. "We'll have to drive on to the new house to let the removal men in." When they reached the new house, the removal men were waiting. Mummy and Dad showed them where to put the furniture, but Topsy and Tim felt too miserable to help. "I've just had a brilliant idea," said Dad. "I won't be long." He drove away in the car. Mummy was not very pleased with him. There was such a lot to do. Topsy and Tim went out to explore their new garden. "Let's climb that tree," said Tim. But Topsy wasn't talking to him because he had let Kitty out. Suddenly, Dad came back. He was holding something firmly and carefully. It was Kitty. "My bright idea was right," said Dad. Kitty had gone back to our old house. Mummy rubbed some butter on Kitty's paws. Kitty began to lick it. By the time she's licked all that tasty butter off her paws, she will be feeling at home here, said Mummy. "Come on, Tim," said Topsy. "Let's go and climb that tree." That night, Topsy and Tim slept in their new bedroom for the first time. Just before Topsy fell asleep, something heavy landed on her bed. "Hello, Kitty," she whispered. It was Topsy and Tim's birthday. The first thing they saw when they woke up was a pile of birthday presents. The postman brought them lots of cards and a package from Granny. "Happy birthday, twins," he said. "How did you know it was our birthday?" asked Topsy. "I guessed," laughed the postman. After breakfast, Topsy and Tim went into the garden to try out their new roller skates. "Happy birthday, Topsy and Tim," shouted their friends over the fence. "How did you know it was our birthday?" asked Tim. "Because you've invited us to your party this afternoon, silly," said Stevie Dunton. Later, Dad took them to the shops to buy party balloons and candles for their birthday cake. "Happy birthday, Topsy and Tim," said Mrs. Patel. "How did you know it was our birthday?" asked Topsy and Tim. "A little bird told me," said Mrs. Patel. When they got home, Topsy and Tim helped to get everything ready for their birthday party. Dad showed them how to blow up the balloons. Then they hung the balloons in bright bunches round the room. Topsy and Tim and Dad went into the kitchen to help make the party tea. Mummy showed Topsy how to ice the little cakes. Tim stuck a sweet on top of each one. Dad was putting sticks into the party sausages, then gave one each to Topsy and Tim. "Stop that," said Mummy, "or there won't be any left for the party." "Can Tim and I put the candles on our birthday cake?" asked Topsy. "No," said Mummy. "You're having a surprise birthday cake, so I'll put the candles on. You can help Dad put the food on the tea table." Topsy and Tim enjoyed carrying the wibbly-wobbly jellies. Everything was ready for the party. Then their friends began to arrive. Vinda was the first, then Tony Welch. Stevie Dunton and Andy Anderson came together. "Here I am," said Kerry. They had all brought birthday presents for Topsy and Tim. "Is everyone here?" asked Mummy. "Everyone except Josie," said Topsy. "We can't start without Josie," said Tim. "I think we had better," said Mummy. First, they played musical chairs. Dad played the music. Each time the music stopped, they had to find a chair to sit on. "I've not got a chair," said Topsy. "You're out then," said Dad. Next, they played Oranges and Lemons. Mummy and Dad made the arch and sang "Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's." "Time for one more game before tea," said Mummy. "We'll play Pass the Parcel." Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Josie Miller. "Hooray!" said Topsy and Tim. Josie sat between Topsy and Tim and the music began. Every time the music stopped, the one holding the parcel had to unwrap it a bit more. "Everybody's won something except me." Then she won Pass the Parcel. "This is a good party," said Josie. There was plenty of food for everyone and lots of orange to drink. Mummy came in with the surprise birthday cake. "Oh, it's a dinosaur," said the children. All the children sang "Happy Birthday," and Topsy and Tim blew out their birthday candles with one big puff. Topsy and Tim were learning to swim. Mummy took them to the swimming pool nearly every day. Mummy helped them put on their swimming things and blow up their armbands. She put their clothes safely in a locker. They all had to walk through a foot bath on their way to the pool to make sure their feet were clean. There was a small pool for beginners like Topsy and Tim. It was full of happy, noisy children. "Race you to the water!" shouted Topsy. Topsy's feet skidded. Mr. Pollock, the swimming instructor, rushed to save her. "Never run near the pool," he said. "The floor is wet and slippery, and it's very hard if you fall and bang your head." Topsy and Tim went down the steps into the pool. Mummy went in with them. The water came up to Topsy and Tim's middles. They held onto the rail and kicked as hard as they could. Mummy did get splashed. "Keep your legs straight," she said. "Now, let me see you swim dog paddle." Topsy paddled like a puppy. Her armbands helped her to float. Tim paddled hard. He splashed more than Topsy, but his legs kept sinking. "Do you think you could swim without your armbands?" asked Mummy. "Of course," shouted Tim. "I'm a champion swimmer." First, Topsy stood in the water a few steps from the side. Then she pushed forward in the water and dog-paddled to the handrail. "Well done, Topsy," said Mummy. "You can really swim now." Then it was Tim's turn. He tried hard, but his feet would not float. "Never mind," said Mummy. "You must put your armbands back on." "Can I help?" said a kind voice. It was Mr. Pollock, the swimming instructor. He told Tim to bob right down until the water was right up to his chin. "Now, walk along and pull the water back with your hands," he said. Tim paddled hard with his hands, then he kicked up and down with his legs. "Look at me," he gasped. "I'm swimming." And he really was. Mummy helped them to get dressed and dried their hair. "Won't Dad be surprised when we tell him we can swim without our armbands?" said Tim. Dad was waiting for them in the snack bar. "Dad, we can swim!" cried Topsy. Dad was pleased. He pointed to a poster on the wall. "There's going to be a swimming competition," he said. "You can swim in the beginner's race, Topsy and Tim." The next week, Dad and Mummy and Topsy and Tim went to the big pool for the swimming competition. There were short races, there were long races. There was a race for children swimming on their backs. Last of all, there was the beginner's race in the beginner's pool. Mr. Pollock blew his whistle to start the race. Tim was left behind, but he knew what to do. He bobbed right down in the water until it reached his chin, then he paddled hard with his hands and feet. Everyone cheered as the children swam slowly across the pool. Topsy and Tim didn't win the race, but everyone got a beginner's badge because they had all reached the other side.